This video is brought to you by Squarespace. South Park has run for 24 years and over 300 episodes, so obviously they've told a lot of stories over the years, but unlike its other cartoon contemporaries with massive episode numbers like The Simpsons or Family Guy, South Park has continuously been run by only 2 people. This is nothing short of miraculous. Even The Simpsons changed showrunners every 2 years for its first 8 seasons, allowing for fresh new voices and ideas to cycle in and out of the writer's room. And while South Park does have plenty of other staff members to help run and write the show, at the end of the day, the entire series is filtered through Matt Stone and particularly Trey Parker, who writes and directs every single episode. In fact, it's actually comical to scroll through the episode listings and just see the walls of Trey Parker's name lining the credits. But making over 300 episodes of television is not easy, especially when there are just 2 guys in charge. And obviously the show has changed a lot over the years. Often events happening within the series are reflections of how Matt and Trey were feeling at the time those episodes were produced. But there were 2 episodes in season 15 that not only blatantly showcased Matt and Trey's feelings on South Park at the time, but also laid a vague roadmap that could help predict exactly where the show was going to go. So today, let's talk about South Park's midlife crisis from season 15, You're Getting Old. But before we get started, let's talk about today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build your online presence, run your business, or make a personal website. It's seriously so user-friendly. I threw this cool page together pretty quickly, and there are so many different customization options. My website looks professional, and it matches the aesthetic of my brand and YouTube channel, highlighting some of my favorite video essays I've worked on, as well as some of the recent productions I've worked on professionally. It's even got links to my work and contact info. I seriously can't express how easy Squarespace is to use. Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to push the website public, use my link, squarespace.com/Johnny2Cellos, to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So as I mentioned up top, South Park has seen many changes over the years, but there are a few that stand out most prominently. For years, the show focused pretty much exclusively on the 4 boys, Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny. Sometimes the stories ventured into the adults' lives, but the focus was always on the boys. Eventually, however, South Park started to show much more of a focus on Randy, Stan's dad, partially because he became a standout comedic character, and partially because as they got older, Matt and Trey simply related to the older characters more than the younger characters. Matt Stone even mentioned this at their 20th anniversary panel.
Yeah, and we're old now, so we are. It's like there's a lot. That's why Randy's become a big character.
And the episode You're Getting Old showcased these feelings in 2 brilliant ways. They showed both Stan and Randy struggle to come to terms with the fact that they're getting older, with Stan feeling confused that he isn't enjoying life in the same ways anymore, and Randy feeling concerned that his life and the world are passing him by. The episode brilliantly showcases Stan's dilemma when his new Tween Wave album doesn't sound good to him anymore. This is initially believed to just be Stan getting older and growing out of certain things, which it is, but there's an extra layer of confusion thrown into the mix when other music that adults enjoy also sounds awful to Stan. In fact, everything starts to sound and look like shit to Stan. Movies all look terrible. Food looks inedible. Even his friends start to look like shit. The world just seems shitty to Stan. And the doctor says the culprit is...
It's a condition called being a cynical asshole.
At that same 20th anniversary panel, Trey Parker actually talked briefly about this episode and confirmed that this was how he was feeling at the time.
There was one where Stan just decided everything was shit, and and to a lot of people, they're like, that felt like the last show. And I was like, that's how I was feeling.
But you can tell that this dilemma was also being told through Randy's story in the episode. Through Randy, we see that concern that the world is changing around him and that he can't keep up. Randy's entire story focuses on how he desperately wants to appreciate and understand these new trends, but he simply doesn't.
No, it doesn't sound like crap to me.
Randy and Sharon have a pretty major fight in the episode, and that fight highlights what I believe are some of the very real concerns that Matt and Trey were fighting. In the commentary for this episode, the pair of them talk about how the story was meant to be commenting on the sitcom nature of their own show, and how everything just resets week to week. And you can tell that this is what they're talking about.
The same shit just happens over and over, and then in a week it just all resets until it happens again.
And so Matt and Trey decided that ending the show on a more somber existential note was actually the right move. As Fleetwood Mac's Landslide plays, the episode ends without the story resetting back to normal. Randy and Sharon get divorced. Stan moves out of his house and into an apartment with his mom. Everything still looks like shit to him, and the episode just ends. Now, the most interesting thing about this is that so many people read this ending as Matt and Trey being entirely finished with South Park, which was not their intention at all. But it was a mid-season finale, and there was a huge break between this and the next set of episodes, leading to endless speculation and even questions about it while they were doing press for Book of Mormon. But Matt and Trey maintained that it was more of a commentary on the sitcom nature of South Park, and not a thinly veiled hint that the duo didn't want to make the show anymore. But interestingly, in the follow-up episode, Asperger's, the duo actually felt like they had to revert everything to the status quo.
Some of the ideas were that we were gonna just keep going like this. Stan lives in an apartment with his mom, and we were just gonna have the show go on like that. And we came up with all these different ideas of how to keep it like this. And
we were gonna do a serialized thing.
Yeah, do a serialized thing where he slowly through the course of the season tried to get his parents back together, but like we finally were like, we're just kind of stuck. We just don't really have a choice. Things are going to have to just reset.
And I think this is actually sort of the key to understanding what Matt and Trey were working through with these episodes, consciously or subconsciously. One of the most interesting things about this episode is that the dialogue for Randy and Sharon's big fight was written the Tuesday morning before the show aired. And also that using the music track Landslide was approved Tuesday night. They had backups ready to go, but as they claimed, none of the other ones felt right. And while they might not have had some grand plan for that conversation between Randy and Sharon, or the landslide montage at the end, I think these things might be some of the purest expressions of how they were feeling about South Park, because of how they came about. They were quickly and genuinely created, maybe more likely to come from the heart. They weren't written and rewritten over and over. And I think this especially lines up with what we've seen from the show in subsequent years, because while they felt pigeonholed into maintaining the status quo here in season 15, seasons 18 through 23 started to shake things up in major ways with the introduction of more serialized story elements, most notably Tegrity Farms. Moving the Marsh family to Tegrity Farms feels like an extension of this inclination that Matt and Trey had back in season 15, where they wanted to shake things up, but then had second thoughts. And fittingly, I think the lyrics to Landslide actually illustrate this better than anything else. I'd play the song for you, but it's one of the most famous songs in the world, so I'll just have to read the lyrics. I've been afraid of changing because I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older too. In Asperger's, Matt and Trey were literally afraid of changing the show they had built their life around. They wanted to, but they were afraid to do it. But as the song says, time made them bolder. And as they got older, they were more willing to take these kinds of risks for the sake of their own happiness.
Because I'm unhappy, okay? I've been unhappy for a long time.
Matt and Trey may not have intended this episode to be some big statement about how they felt about South Park, but I think that subconsciously, this paved the road for what the show would become over the past 9 years. This was the first hint that they were interested in trying new, riskier methods of storytelling. And they've since experimented with this stuff, and some of those choices have paid off, while others have been derailed by real-world events. But I expect that if they hadn't been willing to take these risks, their interest in South Park may have dwindled. And this is even something we're continuing to see to this day. The vaccination special back in March, while doing certain things to re-establish the old status quo, like reintroduce old Garrison, they're also setting up major changes. The boys sort of split up their friend group, implying that they aren't going to be as close anymore. A pretty bold move for the series to make in its 24th season. Personally, I'm all for these changes, and I can't wait to see what they decide to do next. Because time makes us bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older too. Folks, thanks so much for tuning into this little South Park analysis. If you liked it, don't forget to check out my other South Park videos and maybe give my podcast a listen. Me and my friend Tariq cover our favorite animated series one season at a time, and we recently did an episode on the South Park movie, so check that out if that interests you. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.
Johnny! Two Cellos!